වඩාත් විශ්වසනීය ප්‍රවෘත්ති සන්නාමය News First. ඔබ ලොව කොතනක සිටියාත් අප ඔබ සමගයි. Follow us on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. News First. ඔබේ ජීවිතය අපේ ප්‍රවෘත්ති. ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ වඩාත් විශ්වසනීය ප්‍රවෘත්ති සන්නාමය News First. ඔබ ලොව කොතනක සිටියාත් අප ඔබ සමගයි. Follow us on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. News First. ඔබේ ජීවිතය අපේ
TV1 රැස්වීදෙන ජීවිතේ.
Gunmather came across the Old Katuputa village in Hinguragoda in 2020 when traversing from door to door. By then, clean drinking water was a luxury to 600 families. Kidney patients were on the rise with a water purification system insufficient to meet their demands. Gunmather came forth once more to alleviate their woes. Gunmather, for the people, by the people.
Good afternoon. Today is the 1st of February 2022. Welcome to the lunchtime news here on TV1. For the News First team, I'm Sanita Senanayaka. We have a packed bulletin lined up for you this afternoon, but first, let's take a look at the headlines.
Encroaching Indian fishing vessels clash with Lankan boats in the Sea of Sri Lanka. Basil acquitted and released from the Lith case. 450,000 barrels of crude oil to be purchased from Terra Nova Group. No tuition classes for 2021 advanced level examination from today. Students infected with COVID-19 given permission to sit for the advanced level examination at selected hospitals.
As it was mentioned in the headlines, 21 Indian fishermen who illegally encroached into the Sea of Sri Lanka were apprehended by the Navy with the support of Sri Lankan fishermen.
The two Indian fishing trawlers had entered the Sea of Sri Lanka at about 11 last night and were spotted about 2 nautical miles off the coast of Point Pedro. Sri Lankan fishermen have been severely impacted by encroachments of Indian fishermen into the Sea of Sri Lanka. The Indian fishermen that encroach into the Sea of Sri Lanka practice bottom trawling as one of their main fishing methods. Now, bottom trawling is an extremely harmful method of fishing to the environment. It destroys the environment and in the process reduces the amount of fish stock available at sea. And therefore, Sri Lankan fishermen have been affected by this practice for many long years. Now, this issue has been unaddressed for many steps necessary to resolve or to address this very delicate issue. However, yesterday when a group of Indian fishermen encroached into the Sea of Sri Lanka, Sri Lankan fishermen who spotted this took action immediately. The Indian fishing trawlers were surrounded by the Sri Lankan fishing boats and later handed over to the Sri Lankan Navy. This was the response of the people who have been battered by this issue for many long years towards the minister. Now, one of the reasons for the intensification of these protests staged by mainly fishermen in the north who are affected by the encroachments into the Sea of Sri Lanka by Indian fishermen was that recently two fishermen who went out to sea from Vadamarachi were reported missing. However, their bodies have now been discovered on the shores of Maradangeni. This was one of the catalysts that intensified the protests staged by Sri Lankan fishermen in the north in connection, of course, to the encroachments into the Sri Lankan Sea by Indian fishermen. This was the response of the people who have been battered by this issue for many long years towards the minister.
You can log on to our website, that is www.newsfirst.lk, for more details regarding that story. Moving on, State Minister of Urban Development Dr. Nalaka Godaheva faced criticism from passengers on board a bus. The incident took place after a new bus service plying across the Manning Market was declared open this morning.
A new bus service plying across Welby area, Kadawata, Handala, Gampaha and Nittambo to Colombo across the Manning Market began operations this morning. The bus service is aimed at providing transport to vendors and customers who visit the Manning Market.
Yeah, Minister, we want to go to late and all that. We want to take time.
ඒකට මට කතා කරන්න මම දන්නේ නැහැ මමත් ඔබතුමාලා වගේ මේක මාධ්‍ය වලින් දැක්කේ ඒ ගැන පරීක්ෂණ පැවැත්වනනේ පරීක්ෂණ පැවැත්වලා කවුරු හරි වරදක් කරලා තියෙනවා ඒකට අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම දනුවම් දෙන්නට ඕනේ
අමතෝටි ඔබතුමා මේ ගම්පත්තිගේ මේ පළවෙනි යනේ ඡන්ද වැඩිම ගත්ත මේ අමාත්‍යවරයා
පැහැදිලි මේ නිසා තමයි මම මේ වගේ දේවල් හෙලා දකින්නේ
ඔබතුමා ඒක අනුමත කරන්නේ නැහැ
කිසිසේත්ම අනුමත කරන්නේ නැහැ
මේ ගැන හොයලා බැලුවේ නැද්ද ඔබතුමා මේ
මම සාමාන්‍යයෙන් පොලිසිය කරන වැඩ කරන්න යන්නේ නැහැ ඒක මගේ වැඩේ නෙවෙයිනේ
In more local news, Samagi Janabalavege says that they heavily condemn the unruly attack that was carried out against the National People's Power recently. Now there is no good governance in this country. There is only a dictatorial rule. When the government fails, they throw rotten eggs at the opposition. Not only the Jatika Janabalavege, we will condemn an attack against anyone else as well. This is not a quality of democratic politics. They like the JVP when they established a government together and supported them to appoint the president. We condemn this sort of politics when they throw eggs at the opposition. It is reported that 4 people have died when the three-wheeler they were travelling in clashed with a train at the Waligama railway crossing in Gaul. Police said the three-wheeler driver, his wife, her mother and another relative had been the victims of the accident. It is reported the wife of the three-wheeler driver had sustained severe injuries from the accident and passed away a short while ago after being admitted to the Karapitiya Teaching Hospital. The accident had occurred when the three-wheeler had attempted to cross the railway when the red light was on. The railway control room said that the train was plying from Beliatta to Anuradhapura. In more local news, Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa has been acquitted and released from the case filed over the printing of 5 million lith calendars or almanaccas by spending 29.4 million rupees in funds belonging to the Divanaguma department during the 2015 presidential election.
Former Director General of the Divanaguma Development Department, Kitsiri Ranavaka, was also acquitted and released from the case. The Colombo High Court today decided to acquit and release the defendants without calling for evidence from the defense on the basis that the charges filed against them were not proven with a sufficient amount of evidence produced by the prosecution. The court also lifted the travel ban imposed on Basil Rajapaksa and Kitsiri Ranavaka.
The President has informed the Minister of Power to revisit and amend the terms of the agreement with private power plant operators. This matter was taken up for discussion at the Cabinet meeting when the Cabinet paper on emergency purchase of power was presented. We have made a policy decision to purchase emergency power if a need arises. But one of the terms of the agreement with the private power plants was the fact that power must be purchased for a period of 3 years. The government is not in agreement to it. The President instructed the relevant minister to hold discussions to amend the terms to allow for emergency power purchase only during times when the need arises. In the meantime, the President also instructed to call in for tenders for anyone to bid for the supply of power. The main issue is that we do not have fuel to generate electricity, but even private power plants generate power using fuel. How do these private power plants have fuel while the power plants run by the government do not have fuel? From where do these private power plants get their fuel from? If there is an emergency, we will have to purchase power if the need arises. That is what we got approval for. Regarding the second matter that you mentioned, how do these private power plants get diesel? They too get diesel from the stocks of diesel imported to the country, and that has been managed. The Energy Minister had discussed with India to secure a credit line of 500 million from India for the purchase of fuel. Is the fuel going to be purchased from India? The funds from the program will be used to import fuel from India, and we have already discussed and agreed on the $500 million US credit line for this purpose. Also this morning, cabinet approval has been granted to purchase 40,000 metric tons of diesel from the Indian Oil Corporation. The approval had been granted to a proposal submitted by Energy Minister Udaya Gammampila. The IOC had agreed to supply the required fuel during a meeting with the Energy Ministry. Both sides are also holding discussions to import 40,000 metric tons of petrol. In more local news, all farmers, including vegetable farmers, have been impacted by the unresolved fertilizer crisis in the country.
Farmers have now begun to reap their harvests in the northern and eastern provinces. Farmers in Mudaliyakulam Trincomalee say that there is a drastic drop in the harvest compared to previous years. Usually the harvest in Mahiyallava, Mandalagala, Pahalagama and Kudagal Viharaya in the area falling under the Talava Divisional Secretariat in Anuradhapura matured during this season. However, farmers there allege that their crops have not matured yet and that they are unable to reap a harvest. Farmers in Kandakatiya Badulla say that there is no proper harvest from their pumpkin cultivations, for which they used organic fertilizer.
The European Union Sri Lanka Investor Dialogue was chaired by Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa yesterday with the support of the Board of Investment and with the participation of EU and member state ambassadors. The EU businesses and Chamber of Commerce noted that trade and investment as key drivers of growth require a reliable and sustainable legal and administrative framework. Today's meeting focused on how to address current challenges of doing business in Sri Lanka. Taking a look at a story that has made headlines this afternoon, the GCE Advanced Level Examination for the year 2021 will commence on the 7th of this month. The Department of Examinations said all tuition classes for the leading up to the examination will be banned from midnight today.
The Commissioner General of Examination, LMD Dharmasena, said conducting tuition classes, lectures, seminars and workshops for candidates of the advanced level examination is prohibited from today. Both physical and online lectures are prohibited. He said that anyone found violating this prohibition will be subject to stern action. The Ministry of Health said that 29 hospitals have been allocated for students infected with COVID-19 to sit for their GCE advanced level examination.
In some COVID-19 related news, health authorities are urging people to avoid travelling during the long weekend. The advisory comes as many COVID-19 infections are being reported in the country. Officials are also urging people to obtain the third dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. More cases are being reported than what was detected a month ago. We are detecting many more COVID-19 cases as we conduct our tests at labs. When a virus is spreading during a pandemic, it increases the caseload and the number of hospitalized cases. This applies to Omicron as well. If an infected person is fully vaccinated and has obtained the booster vaccine on time, he can exit quarantine after 7 days and go to work. But the relevant health guidelines must be followed. Are COVID-19 cases spreading fast among children? We can see that more children are being hospitalized due to COVID-19, but most of them have contracted the virus from elders at their homes rather than at schools. Up next is Crime Watch.
Crime Watch.
It is reported that a person who was allegedly involved in a drug deal was shot dead by two people travelling on a motorbike. The 33-year-old victim who was shot is currently receiving treatment at the Colombo National Hospital. It is reported that the victim is a resident of Padukka. Investigations are underway to locate the two suspects who fled the scene after the shooting.
Crime Watch.
Is the government going for an IMF program to restructure the debt of the country? Minister Dr. Ramesh Patira responded to this question at the Cabinet Media Briefing today.
No, there was no specific discussion about said topic during yesterday's conversation in the Cabinet meeting rather, but that was a constant discussion that we've been speaking about that. Yes, we are open to all the institutions and all the ideas. So we have been speaking to IMF as well over a period of time, and it's our government during His Excellency Mahinda Rajapaksa's time which has obtained the highest amount of loan from International Monetary Fund. We are trying to manage the situation, and also at the same time we are trying to restructure. We are in discussion with all the agencies. Hopefully we should be able to manage the current crisis within 6 months' time down the line.
In some developing international news, Boris Johnson has announced the appointment of a new office of the Prime Minister after Sue Gray's interim report into Downing Street parties called for a major overhaul of Downing Street and questioned the roles of two of his most senior civil servants. Fighting for his
Just before the heat of incidents of inhumane treatment, torture and extrajudicial killings dies down, another issue pops up. We have received yet another complaint of torture. The media is reporting that I raped an 11-year-old girl. There are reports that there is CCTV footage of this, but none of these are true. I am not a person like that. After I was arrested, I was first brought to the CRP prison in Colombo. They kept me there for a day and took me to the Bogambara prison for quarantine. Within 2 days, they attacked me with 33,000-volt cables. They whipped my chest, my back and my face. I started to vomit blood thereafter. I became very weak. I got bail on the 19th. I didn't even know that I had gotten bail. And on the 22nd, I was brought to the CRP prison in Colombo. I was made to kneel down and I was attacked with batons by a group of people who were under the influence of alcohol at the time. They attacked my chest and my head and forced me to crawl into the prison cell.
And that brings us to an end of this edition of Lunchtime News here on TV1. For the News First team, I've been Senator Sena Nayaka. Take care and stay safe.